Believe it or not, there's no such thing as being stuck in life. Being stuck implies that it's not in your control to get unstuck. But the reality is, it's all in your control, even when it doesn't feel like it.
It never happens on your time, like when you think you're ready. It always happens when it's supposed to happen. Because the period that you feel ready and people are not acknowledging the material the way you feel like they should because it's good, is the time that you actually develop skin thick enough to survive when it does work.
It's been a long time coming. Fresh new tires, I'm still running. It's a few things I'm overcoming.
So the truth is, you're not really stuck. You're just trapped in your own mind and in your own thought patterns. Something that helped me when I was younger was to think of my mind as a fresh sheet of snow. And every thought that I have forms a groove like a ski does on a slope. And the more those thoughts are entertained and ingrained, the deeper those grooves become and the harder it becomes to break out of them. Imagine being on a ski route and skiing down it over and over again until it becomes the default route. And that's the thing, we tend to think the same thoughts over and over again. In fact, 90% of our thoughts that we're having today are the same as the ones that we had yesterday and the day before that. So the issue is, for most people, the tracks and grooves that they're forming are laced with negativity, with self-doubt, with limiting beliefs. And then this becomes their default perception and mode of reality. So the process of getting unstuck then is like adding a new fresh sheet of snow on top of all of that and removing all of those grooves. And luckily there is a formula for this. And when I discovered this, my business, my life, my everything transformed for the better. So I'll share it with you. I'll share with you the techniques that took me a decade to learn, understand, and master. Because once I did, it changed everything. So I think I find solace in the fact that something greater than me is guiding me and that there are no wrong turns in life. The truth is, on the journey of mastery, if you decide to walk this path, you can only really spiral upward. There's no such thing as falling off of the path. Because even when things are going wrong or you're deciding not to stick to the things that you committed to previously, that is still part of the path. People seem to think that making progress means that you have 100% clarity of mind all the time and you know exactly where you're headed. But the truth is, clarity comes in waves. So a wiser approach is understanding that it's all necessary and it's all part of the journey. It's about reframing the part where we think we're stuck to fuel that burns just as well as moments of clarity do. And knowing and having this deep understanding that uncertainty isn't failure, it's just a path to deeper knowledge and an opportunity to widen and broaden your perspective. So history's greatest minds learn how to transmute doubt into fuel. Da Vinci took something like 16 years to finish the Mona Lisa, but if it wasn't for those periods of where he was stopping and starting, he wouldn't have added the final tweaks that made it what it was in the end. When elite athletes, for example, are on losing streaks, they often use that time to recalibrate, re-strategize the way in which they're going, because that's often what it requires to get to the next level. And what comes to mind for me is when Ronaldo came from Sporting Lisbon to United, everyone knew this guy was a generational talent, absolute baller, and he had flashes of that in the Premier League, but ultimately he just wasn't cutting it. So he used that time to re-strategize, and when he came back, I think in 2007 season, he was a complete different player, and the rest is history, I don't have to tell you. So my point is, you can't really be stuck. It's really just a mental processing issue. The same way computers sometimes overload when they've got too many inputs and too many things to process at one time, same is true with your mind. So in just a minute, I'll give you 3 practical ways that you can actually process this information better and take a wiser approach to understanding when you feel stuck. And also, I'd love to know in the comments what it is that makes you feel stuck despite all the evidence in the world telling you that you're going in the right direction, because this happens to me a lot. So let me know below and I'll personally read them. Anyway, realize that mastery is not about eliminating uncertainty, it's about developing a relationship with it. It's an ongoing dialogue between what you know, what you're discovering, and what remains to be seen. And as long as you're growing, then this cycle is going to continue repeat. And to be honest, I love being in the unknown and not knowing what's going to come next, because I know I'm going to a place where most people won't venture out to. And to be honest, that's where all the quantum leaps in life come from. So you might be wondering, how do I turn my indecision into fuel? Whether you're a founder or creator or professional, you probably have seasons of clarity where everything just clicks and everything makes sense. But then you also have those seasons of doubt where you wonder, what's the point of all this? Why am I doing this? Is it just a waste of time? But what if I told you each season is as crucial as the last? I'm sure it would feel great to feel clarity all year round and know exactly where you're headed all of the time. But in all honesty, I think it's actually the seasons of doubt that helps us reframe, readjust, and course correct. So when you enter that inevitable season of doubt where you feel stuck, here's where most people go wrong. They allow their doubt to create resistance and stop their momentum that they created in their season of clarity entirely. They question themselves, their worth, and their work. And these seeds of doubt grow into procrastination, self-pity, and indecision, thereby creating the illusion that they're stuck.
I get to you, and I
So let me show you what to do instead. I was once told that in the ocean, you can't control the fact that there are waves, but you can learn how to surf. Learning to surf literally means that you ride whatever wave that you're given with so much finesse that you're ready for the next one. When I was at lunch the other day, a friend of mine told me that why don't we acknowledge the negative things in our lives just as much as the positive things, because they hold just as much weight. For example, if you're into synchronicities and seeing numbers or whatever it is, you always feel that as a moment of clarity and as a moment of being on the right path. But what if you reframe the negative events in your life and the seasons of doubt as the same? Shout out Russ for that one, that was big. So if you're in a business crisis, it can remind you, well, this is what I signed up for. Or self-doubt in your artistry, for example, when I make videos, it can tell me maybe it's time to iterate. You see, on the upward spiral of mastery, the more you learn, the more you seem to loop back on yourself. And this is where the doubt creeps in, but instead you can use it as a moment to pause, review, and re-examine where you're going. I'll give you an example. F1 cars, when they're approaching a corner, they often slow down so they can speed up on the straight. And that's actually the answer hidden in there. They're never actually stuck. They never come to a stop fully. They're always in motion, but even if it's just a little bit slower. Same rule can be applied to your life, to your business, to your health, wealth, relationships. Find out when you're on the bends so you can slow down and course correct. So once you recognize this polarity and you understand that for every moment of clarity in your life, there will also be an equal amount of doubt, you'll be able to identify what season you're currently in and then decide if you should double down on the straights or you should slow down if you're on a bend. So here's a few things that you can actually practically do to get unstuck, and in my opinion, the last one is the most important one. This one's going to sound slightly obvious and maybe a little bit jarring, but to be honest, it works. You have to tell yourself, okay, I'm done being stuck. Now, I'm not sure what the science is behind this, but when I tell my mind this, it's like I've created an intention and then everything moves out the way and I start to regain these moments of clarity again. My mind knows it's had its time to be stuck and I need to immediately start moving. Action relieves anxiety every single time. Jim Halpert said that movement creates more winners than meditation. So then the next thing I do is I commit to micro actions that will help me solidify that idea that I've just told myself. And then once I complete enough of those micro actions, I'm no longer stuck. And why? Because I've created momentum again. You'll be so surprised how little momentum you actually need to create to get out of a rut. The idea behind this is you can't think your way out of a thinking problem. That's like trying to sniff your way out of a cocaine problem. You actually have to move. You have to create some motion. So whatever it is, if you have a huge project that you keep putting off, or you have this business idea that you're not executing on, find a way to break the macro down into the micro and commit to the little tasks. For me, for example, I have ambitions of creating the best show on earth over on my main channel. If you haven't seen it, go and subscribe over there. But sometimes this idea can overwhelm me because I get into overthinking each episode and each theme and how big I want to do it and budget and location. But when I commit to one small task, like let's say finding a location, the rest seems to fall into place with time. So I think it's really important to refocus on the mission and on your North Star at times when you feel that you're lost or that you're stuck. I read somewhere that if the why is strong enough, then you don't have to worry about the how. Okay, second thing I do is diagnose where that feeling of being stuck comes from. I often reference this map of consciousness. If you're not familiar with it, I'll put it on screen here or there, but essentially it shows us what feelings bring us closer to a higher vibration or a lower vibration. And feeling stuck is definitely on the bottom half of this chart. I don't care if you're not spiritual or if you are spiritual, if you believe in this concept or if you don't. In my opinion, it's 100% real, but there's different ways of explaining it. So I'm just going to take this spiritual way of explaining it. So what you can do is do a quick audit of your thoughts that you had yesterday. Remember I said 90% of your thoughts are the same as the ones that you had yesterday. Try and write down the main thoughts and concerns that you are having and try and find out where it lies on this scale. Probably on the bottom of the scale, around shame, guilt, fear, anger. So think about it logically. If you're having these same thoughts over and over again on a daily basis, then of course everything is going to come to a boiling point and you're going to feel like you're stuck. So how do you break the loop? Well, the goal is to move up the spectrum. And let me let you in on a little secret. Anxiety and gratitude cannot coexist at the same time. I've said this before in another video, but it's completely true. And I'm talking about real gratitude. I'm not talking about writing 3 things down that you're grateful for, like my bed, my clothes, my shoes. I mean cultivating that real feeling of gratitude that moves you emotionally. Haven't you ever noticed that the most euphoric moments in your life are followed by a sequence of positive events and vice versa? When it rains, it pours is what people say, because when you have a negative event, you go downwards on this spiral. So with each moment, you can literally dictate what sequence of events is going to unfold for you next. And yes, it's very much easier said than done, but like anything, it's a skill. You have to master it, you have to hone it, you have to practice it. One of my favorite thinkers, Naval, says that karma is literally just you repeating your patterns and your virtues until you get what you think you deserve. So thirdly, and most importantly, focus on your mental endurance. What does this mean? Well, I often go back to stoicism when I feel stuck, and Marcus Aurelius said, if it's endurable, then endure it, stop complaining. If it's unendurable, then stop complaining. Your destruction will meet its end as well. Stoicism taught me that you don't actually have to know the solution. Sometimes you just have to sit with it long enough to understand it from a new perspective. So you can improve your mental endurance by doing harder things, just like improving your stamina, you go for longer runs. Constantly challenge yourself through progressive overload, and eventually you'll be able to look back and understand how you would have handled things back then versus how you handle things now. And that's how you measure your growth. So that's my simple 3-step formula to getting unstuck in life. And it's really just about knowing that you're not really stuck. You're just in a moment to pause and recalibrate. And the thing is, I say that I've mastered it, but in truth, with each new level that I reach, they say new level, new devil. So I always have these periods of feeling stuck. In fact, I actually just got out of one last week. But the fact that I have this formula to lean on and to go back to when I feel stuck makes it that much easier to get out of it and get on to the next season of clarity. And that's the secret, really. You're stuck for as long as you decide to be stuck. Again, look, it's easy for me to say, but in truth, realigning with my mission, with my North Star, and being around the right people, and then transmuting that fuel and anxiety into micro action always relieves it and always gets me out of that rut. Ultimately, zooming out, recognize that it's all an upward spiral, even when it doesn't feel like it. It can feel like you're learning the same lessons over and over again. And that could be true, or you could be looping back on yourself on this spiral and it just feels familiar. But except this time, you're learning the lesson from a new perspective, from a new dimension. So from one creator to another, endure it, embrace it, enjoy it. And remember, this too shall pass. That's one of my mantras that I go back to. View the journey of mastery as continuous, as never ending. You never arrive. And realize that having doubt and feeling stuck is actually part of the process as well. And if you learn to transmute it and use it correctly, then you can actually quantum leap from that point. So as the saying goes, perspective can either be your power or your prison. FYI, if you are a founder, a creator, or a high-level professional and you're looking to break through the mental barriers that you're currently facing, turn stress and chaos into aligned creation using my conscious co-creator method, then I actually open up some spots to work with me one-to-one. If you apply in the description below, it's usually for founders that are somewhat doing well already in their business or creators that are already doing well in their journey. I help you get to the next level through understanding the process of self-mastery and internal alignment. So apply below, spots are very limited, and if you're a right fit, then I'll contact you personally. Alternatively, I'm also running these 90-minute creative strategy sessions on trial at the moment. They've been a huge success with the people I've worked with so far and unlock some insights and uncover some blind spots for the people that are not quite at that level of being a high-frequency, high-level founder yet or high-level creator yet, but still helps eliminate the root causes and issues that everyone faces, like procrastination, lack of clarity, self-doubt, and limiting beliefs. You can apply for that in the second link in the description below. Other than that, I do also have an 8-step completely free self-mastery guide that you can use on your journey and whatever it is that you're doing. That'll be the third link in the description below. And subscribe to this channel, subscribe over to my main channel where my show is, and I'll see you in the next one.